There's a place called New York, and New York has a borough called Brooklyn, and Brooklyn has a sub-borough called Flatbush, and I would give a tiny class in this neighborhood in Brooklyn. I gave this class, by the way, if you visit InsideChassidus.org, all those classes that I gave in that shul are online. The class went on maybe for 7 or 8 years, but the crowd would move in and out. Every year or two, the other people, the old people got bored of me, and I got new people who would join the class. I had my geek period. I had like a period with like 8 or 9 people, a bunch of engineers, right? What's the first sign of an engineer? He's got a bunch of pens in his pocket. What's the second sign of an engineer? There's got ink in the bottom of the lower part of his shirt because he forgot to close the button. What can I tell you? They're all the same, right? I'm also an engineer some days. That's why I use a cap rather than a button-down pen, because they don't leak. It took me like 20 years to figure that out. So I'm an engineer too, at least in the sense of being absent-minded. So I had my engineer period. A bunch of they were smart. They were all smarter than me. Brilliant people. I remember I asked one of them to explain to me how they figured out in the 1870s. Faraday figured out the speed of light. How do you figure out the speed of light in the 1880s? He tried to explain it to me, and after 2 seconds, I said, you know what? I lost you. Don't even bother. I don't know what you're talking about. He tried to explain it to me, and I was just gone. So it was a guy whose name was Morris. His Hebrew name was Moshe. And he wore a yarmulke on his head that you could see he wore it exactly once a week. They call it an ice cream cone yarmulke. When it doesn't fit right, it's not there often enough. He came every week with his navy blue shirt with a ink stain in the lower right corner of his shirt, and he never said a word. Now the class didn't have 400 students, it had about 6 students, you understand? So I had time to get to know him. So I said to this Morris, who are you? He told me he's an engineer, he worked for the city, he was working on bridges. He explained what he was doing, really cool stuff. This is Brooklyn, this is not Orlando. Kid grew up in Brooklyn, he never had a Passover Seder. I didn't know it happened. Pesach, never had a Pesach Seder. When I invited him to come to Pesach Seder, he didn't know what it was. I said, you grew up in Brooklyn? He says, yeah, right here in whatever neighborhood it was. But somehow you could live in Brooklyn, in the holiest of holies of America, and still not know that Pesach you got to have a Seder, and Hanukkah you got to light candles. But he came to my Tanya class every week. So I said to him, Morris, you come here every week. He never said a word, never questioned what I said, never doubted what I said. I'm sure he had so many issues with what I was saying. I mean, I'm stupid now. I was stupider then. I get every day I know a little less than I know the day before, and the less I know, the smarter I am, the wiser I am. It's just a fact of life. This goes back 10 years, 12 years. I was a bigger know-it-all then than I am now. I still know it all, but I know less of all. So I said to Morris, I said, why do you come to these classes? What are you doing here? He says, I want a relationship with God. Those are his words. I want a relationship with God. I never heard an adult person ever say to me, I want a relationship, but especially a scientist. So I was a bit taken aback. I want a relationship with God. So I immediately said to him, listen, you are an engineer. And he knew a lot of mathematics. He was a really smart guy. I said, if you want a relationship with God, then you must have figured out all the problems with God. People have problems with God. If the world is this and this old, and this and this and this and this and this and this and this, we're not sure exactly where God fits into the equation. In the 19th century, there's the famous quote, in my model, there's no need for God. So I said to this Morris, I said to this Moshe, I said, if you're coming to a Tanya class where we talk about God, and you're interested in a relationship with God, then you must have worked out all the science. You must have figured out all the problems. I know the universe, the strata, there's a lot of questions. So I said to him, you must have figured all the stuff out. He said, no, I never thought about it. So I said to him, I don't understand. You're an engineer. You're a smart man. You're well educated. And you didn't think about the scientific problems with God. And you're here in this class where we're talking about God. And so he interrupted me. He says, Rabbi, I don't care. I want a relationship with God. Those were his words. I don't care. Now, I'm the rabbi, right? But this man taught me something. I don't care. I want a relationship with God. If you want to understand the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's it. I don't care. I want a relationship with God. And we're going to daven mincha, okay? That's what we got to do now. We're going to have a relationship with God.